Welcome to the next installment of the Work Inspired podcast. It's your host, Kimberly Sullivan, and today I'm interviewing Al Fiesel with LJC and Jerry DeCola with Inspiring Consultants. We're going to have a conversation about how honesty, friendship, and the people-first approach shape stronger business relationships and better workspaces. That creating we spaces with amenity blends everyday life into the office, fosters collaboration, engagement, and a sense of belonging. Work Inspired starts right now. Thank you, Al, for being here today. And we have a special co-host, Jerry, with us. We're very excited to have you both on the show. And we wanted to start by, Al, could you tell us your professional story?
My professional story is one of going to undergraduate at Iowa State and graduate school at Yale. I came out of school, had the good fortune of rolling right into a job at Skidmore, Owings & Merrill. Led me eventually to Gensler, which led me eventually to where we're at today at Lamar Johnson Collaborative. The makeup of our organization is a very good percentage of people that are all former friends from the Gensler organization, and we're proud of what we've built in a collaborative, integrated approach to the way we solve problems for our clients.
Have you done a number of different projects across a wide variety of verticals, or have you focused mainly into a certain one?
Well, I specifically have the great fortune of leading the interiors practice for the organization, but that's just kind of a statement. The number one is that we're an integrated by design organization, and we have like-minded, strong leaders in the organization that love to be involved in multiple assignments throughout the course of their careers. So we don't want to stagnate and just work on one typology or be what a lot of our competitors call industry experts at a certain entity. Sure, that's important, but I really believe the more exposure you have in your career to different forms of work, it's going to be more beneficial to you, the individual, and to your team.
Wonderful. Jerry, did you want to share a little bit about your professional story?
I've been in the industry of facility management for over 20 years, and that's how I've known Al for most of those years. I've worked in different industries, in pharmaceutical, I've worked in banking, worked in technology, and I've done over 2.5 million square feet of construction spaces, most of them with this gentleman, being at the head of that over the years. And now as I'm taking that career and that knowledge and that experience, plus I've been a trainer for facility management people for over 15 years. So a lot of people have certifications, and I've been fortunate enough to be able to work with them over the years. And I'm taking that experience and now I'm bringing it to the consulting world. So I now have my own company. I'm the founder, consultant, and certification instructor for Inspiring Consultants. And part of that experience I've had is I've developed several facility management teams for different companies. And I'm now taking that to my company, which is Inspiring Consultants. And we're taking that to help organizations develop teams and the people within those teams from a standpoint of not only helping them develop their operations, but develop their people at the same time. So we're taking a different approach than just to say, you need to do something. We're saying, here's a suggestion. We're going to help you get there as well. So we're going to continue to grow from that standpoint. And I'm going to continue to work with people like Al.
You guys have worked together for about 20 years, and you have a long-standing relationship. What made your relationship unique in the projects that you've worked on together?
Well, if I may, I'll start that. I believe it's 100% based on honesty. Friendship comes from being truthful and trying to solve problems for your friends and your clients. And so when you can do and mix both of those successfully, that's how you build a long withstanding 30-year relationship that we actually have. So I know that because my son's 27 and I was working with Jerry before he was born. So there's a great barometer for myself. But what we do is an industry based on creating solutions, and solutions have to come through options. And when you can be like-minded with a client on what it is that's driving their success, you can better deliver a successful project for them.
The honesty and to be able to discuss something with your partner, to be able to openly have a conversation with Al and say, Al, this is what I'm getting from management to say, this is what they're looking for. I think this is the direction that they're going. And then him being able to take that and take it even further. And not only take it from a standpoint of design standpoint, but also from his interaction with senior management. So he not only became a key person for myself, but he also became a key person with executive management. He would walk in the door and they would greet him faster than they would greet me sometimes. So that's the type of relationship that we had over time. It became more of a partnership, and that's why we continue to work together today.
I think you need to respect your client at the same level you respect your teammates. Your teammates are what make you as an individual successful. The great thing about design and architecture is it's not a singular business where you're just the proprietor of it and it's all about you. It's about a team, and it's about having the ability to very openly bounce ideas off of one another and very openly deliver, again, as I previously stated, options to our clients. Because optionality, you're going to find as you create multiple options, there's a hybrid within there that's going to be the best or optimal solution for what it is you're trying to solve. There's never one right out of the block, right?
And as a facility professional, sometimes you want to make sure you have a person who's watching out from an operational standpoint, not just a design standpoint. I've worked with designers over the years who have done a great job. Things are beautiful, but when you actually have to operate them at the end, you can't because they've been designed to be dysfunctional. Let's put it that way. And I've never had that problem with them.
That's wonderful.
How about that?
Well, transparency, communication, collaboration, partnership. It sounds like you guys have had a great thing going for many years.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Would you be able to share a valuable resource that you've had that might be impactful for your career or your careers together?
Jerry first, if you'd like.
He always was looking out for me, not just for the job, but for me for my career as well. So when he saw, of course, everyone makes mistakes, right, along in their career. And when he would see me make a mistake, he'd say, Jer, you're going down the wrong path. Let me help you get back on path. And that was beneficial. So it helped me along the way from my career standpoint.
Yeah, so resource. I think people believe that architecture and design is something that's just ancillary and isolated. And really what it is it's expanded to being a trusted advisor for your client. It's not just about facilitating, as Jerry said, an end result, but the success is how you got there. And it's listening a lot, it's making changes, it's being able to be nimble as opposed to being rigid. And a lot of the design profession has a rigidity to it because it involves around you're giving a lot of thought and energy into creating a design solution, and you don't want that solution to be broken apart. You want to maintain it. And the way you do that is by keeping your client engaged. So the process becomes, again, collaborative and collective as opposed to just being all about what it is you want for the job. But there's a team, your team that you're helping drive, as well as the client. And then there's, as you can appreciate for any job you do in design and architecture, there's a great many consultants involved. And so everybody has to be like-minded at getting to that finish line, or you're just conflicting with one another the whole way.
Yeah, and team. Now Al brought the great team members along the way too, right? If I need a landscaping expert, a design standpoint, if I need someone special, Al and I have done some unique designs for prior companies for bowling alleys and for tennis courts and for several other unique things that we've done in different buildings. It's not nothing cookie cutter. It wasn't something you could just bring. He always brought the expert to the table. It wasn't something we could just pull off the shelf and figure out what to do. So there was a lot more time, a lot more effort, a lot more give and take to say, let's try this, let's try that. No, that doesn't work, but that will work. I think both of us kind of understood the culture of the organizations that I worked for, and I also understood the cultures of his company that allowed him to continue to work with us from that standpoint.
Yeah, we've really, at Lamar Johnson Collaborative, we've really made more than a concerted effort. It is by how we're founded and how we operate every day, and that is multiple disciplines that create the success of the organization. There are a lot of just singular architectural practices, and we've set out to make sure we're not just that. So between architecture, interiors, the ability to do incredible planning, civic planning and landscape, and all now we've got a group in our organization called CDE, which is an engineering component of our group. So we can before we're working with our consultants, if they're on a project with us, we have the ability to also bounce ideas off of our own internal people. So we can back check and make sure that we're ensuring success, because the way that you will completely singe a friendship with a client is that you do right things and you keep their budget and their economics in mind. The way you will deface that relationship is when things start becoming awry, and they usually revolve around dollars and cents. And the more that you are like-minded with a client and understand what they're against, the more that you'll be able to deliver a successful project throughout. Not just the end result, but throughout.
And even though Lamar is a much larger architectural firm, sometimes if you're not one of the larger fish in the pond, sometimes you get lost. And that's not something, even though I wasn't one of the bigger ones, especially in the beginning, I never felt that way with Lamar Johnson.
Yeah, that's a culture of ours. It's really easy to get really, really big and base your practice on more of an IBM or Ford Motor Company business model of more and more and more. And we've always tried to keep ourselves at a nimble enough size that we can make sure we're addressing our clients' needs.
I'm so
That's
glad
also
to
why
hear.
I'm with BOS too.
Well, thank you. So one of the things you guys mentioned was some very unique and thoughtful approaches and ideas, right? And I wonder if it's more of the hybrid work and how we need to combat that, right? And we've heard all these crazy ideas over the last couple of years of let's have, nitro and espressos and things and driving back. But a bowling alley, could you guys kind of lean into what the future of the space might look like and what hybrid policy has done to it and how we're bringing people back in? And maybe that bowling alley is a really great idea of how we could get people back in the office. I know I'd love to bowl during the day.
Well, Jerry and I were challenged on a large-scale assignment. Keep names out of this dialogue today, but when we were on that assignment, one of the immediate questions from the C-level suite was, we're in Deerfield, Illinois, so I may have given away the name of the company right there. But I think the idea was, this is pre-pandemic, how do we look at getting people to Deerfield? Because the analysis will prove that the best and brightest on your growth is going to come from the large scale of the city of Chicago. And so getting people out there was step one. So they provided means by which to pick people up from a train station, take them to their worldwide headquarters and do what needed to be done all day and then get them back home safe. But while you're there, what would entice you to be different than that of the big city? So could it be things like a garden by which you could have plants? Because if you live downtown, odds are very high you're not going to have much more than a ceramic pot on your deck. So you have the ability to start doing different things to a daycare center, to a softball facility. So we were challenged at LJC to create dream for a minute and create a listing of opportunity. So we started with very basic wholesale ideas like a daycare center, like a dry cleaning pickup, like the ability to get people to and fro work safe and in inclement weather. But it really came back to how do you singe a culture when you're in 700,000 square feet and you're trying to get everybody to know everybody. So ideas like a fitness center, ideas like the ability to play basketball outside in great weather, but then all the way fundamentally to working with Brunswick Corporation and developing a 4-lane bowling alley and coming in and having competition after hours, one group against another, sharing in that ability of really singeing friendship. So if you think about it, we do things in our daily life that make you develop that friendship you have with the friends and family members that you have today and your loved ones. Why can't that get to the workforce too? It's always been this big separation between friends, family, and business. I personally hate the phrase return to work and this ideology of what is new work. That is really, this is work now. And it's giving option, and companies have respected the fact that people that drive the success of their company are what makes their company successful. So the more you can get that vote, the more you can get that collaboration of what's important to you, the people, the better off your people are going to feel towards wanting to work for you, staying with you for a long duration of time, and building your brand and your success. And so I think that that's refreshing about what we're doing today in design, as well as what clients are doing in driving their people. They're coming to the table with what's important to you. You know, my favorite project for our group was when we worked for Cressa Partners, which is a real estate brokerage company in Chicago. The very first question, well in advance of how many people are going to work for you, how many private offices do you need, and all that fundamental truth, we came at it with what is missing in your facility that will ensure that people want to come in and want to be here for 8 hours a day and want to really make this a culture that you can adapt to. So we brought those things from those comfort factors from your own resident into the workplace that gave you the ability to free, collect, and meet with people. And I think that that's missing in most businesses. You come in, you Velcro your butt to your chair, and you go to work all day. And the more that we can do things that give you those breaks, so you can have different ways and modes of working during the course of the day, from heads down to collaborative to team sessions, all of that has to be fundamentally thought of. So it's not just conferencing, workplace, and private offices. It's all of it kind of coming together today. And so that's why you see companies that are worth 300,000 square feet can be 200,000 square feet, and 200 could be 150, and 150, so on and so forth. Because you can really use less space because you need to give more space to everybody. So in our business, we call it we space versus me space. And I think the real truth is the we space is the most important function because it makes you energized about what you're doing and how you're working with your teammates. And it makes you feel part and connected to the company you're with. And I don't know if that's always been the case in the history of business. Business has been about productivity and profitability, and that's at singular. Today, it's more about how do you get there than the end result.
We had several different things, so we kind of touched on everybody's things that people would like. But I also worked in an environment of culture of people being acceptable. I worked in other organizations where they tried some of these events or tried to have different, and they failed because the culture just didn't do it. There was a perception was you're goofing off. You're not participating. You're not working during the day. So where this was a culture that they recognize you work late, they recognize you come early. Sometimes you have to be on the weekends, and this was a relief factor. We did something very simple. We had table tennis tables all over the building, and we had competitions, just generic competitions. And that brought more people together than some of the bowling or any of the other events, just because it was something that people had to kind of get behind. We had teams. We had people who never played table tennis before, learning how, and then becoming part of teams, and then continued that friendship beyond that point. So that's a cultural thing. You can't buy that. You can't build that. It has to be part of that from the very beginning.
Yeah, it's a simple integration of the things you do in your own personal life, and you're letting them still at a professional scale fold into the workplace. So if it's a grow garden, because you don't have any property if you live in the city, and you need the ability to do some things that are going to make you feel more energized about you, let the facility help you do it.
So what we're trying to say is that Jerry is the table tennis champion.
No, I'm a table tennis coordinator champion.
Okay.
Yeah, he made sure all the equipment was there.
Yeah. I will give you guys kudos. The unnamed company that you work for, I drive past all the time.
Okay.
Right? And in the height of a few years ago, my daughter thought that the outside landscaping was the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen. And she constantly asked me to drive in there at night when it was all lit up and absolutely gorgeous. So the space you created was spectacular on the inside, right? I was fortunate enough to get to go see it. But outside, too.
Yes.
You really thought it all the way through.
Well, you're on a campus.
Yeah.
It has to be self-serving.
To the credit of the C-suite that we worked with, they recognized it. They recognized that if they're going to have this space, and they're going to be on a major expressway like 294, that they need to have more than just their name on the building. They need to be a focal point. They need to be recognized as something more than what it was before. And because there was trees, there was campus before, but we made it to the next level. And the lighting, the trees. So we made sure that the garden was still in place, and we did a lot of things to make sure that we continue to beautify that area.
Yeah, the greatest testimonial is if you were to cross-section your organization and look at the years of experience and the years of work that you have at that organization, and you see a lot of numbers in the 20s and even 30s, you've built an incredibly successful company. Again, all the young generation today pays attention to what Forbes has to say and other entities that do a lot of studies on how do you best build your career for success. And that is in your early stages, every 2 years to 3 years, you should be moving from company to company. I'm not an advocate of that. I believe that as you get to be singed into a company and really develop and help develop that culture, that permeates to the new people, and that's your greatest recruiting tool. If you're interviewing with somebody that talks all about the culture of the firm and they've been there for a year, it's somewhat hard to believe exactly what it is they're trying to organize for you. So the more that you can present that worldwide story, the better off the company is going to be. And the same goes with leadership. If leadership is starting a company, that's the hardest part about starting up something new. You've been there a year or two, and here you're coming in and saying, well, our culture. I'm not convinced that the culture's been really embellished at that stage of the business growth. And I think you need to really organize that. Always put your truth on the table and say, I may not know what I'm doing, but I have a good sense that this is going in the right direction, and let's get buy-in from everyone else. And the greatest success, I think, for business is to recognize when things aren't going right, to change course and not keep trying to develop it because it seemed like a good idea at one point in time. And I see that over and over again with the companies we work for. The greatest part, you talked earlier about, Jerry talked actually earlier about this notion of when people would see people around in a lounge environment and collaborating and talking about ideas with a cup of coffee, the senior partnership would think that they were slacking off and talking about the ball game last night. And I think the number one part is that's what develops that trust factor. And the more that you work with teammates that trust you and you trust them, that's the success of companies.
Success of companies is the success of your relationship together and being able to create beautiful things. Trust is highly important. Yeah,
without question. Without question. He still sends RFPs to other companies.
Jerry. I had a question in here about earning the commute, and I think you guys both touched on that in different ways, right? Whether it's picking people up from train stations, understanding you're in the suburbs versus the city. Are there other things you've experienced that help these business owners with their teammates to earn that commute to the office?
I'm always, interested in where people live, because when you work in like a big cosmopolitan city, or even if you work in the suburbs, what is that commute to and fro? And if your work week is based on a Monday through Friday, and you're spending 20, 30% of those hours in that commute factor, I don't know how you can't but get a bad taste in your mouth about what that's all about, and how you are so locked to a train schedule or so locked to some form of transportation. And if you get in a car and you're sitting in bumper-to-bumper traffic for 2 hours trying to get to the office or get home, I'm not so certain that's going to either start off your day or end your day on their best foot. And so the more that you can create that ability to even work a little as you commute and get to the office with a fresh, vibrant, healthy attack to what you have to do, I think that puts everybody at a better foot for how to do it. I've known people that have lived as far away as Indiana that take a car ride to the train, a train to the city, a bus to the office.
Wow.
They've got it all covered. So I can't imagine what that would be like and what the success factor of that is emotionally and the strain you're putting on yourself. And then that strain rides itself downhill to all the people you work with around you and the clients you're trying to engage with. So you spend your first number of minutes complaining about your commute alone, as opposed to, hey, what's going on? What are we doing? And I think that's a little dishonest to yourself. And I approach it differently. I think the fabric of where you live becomes the fabric of how you work.
And I think, too, after I left that organization that had this great culture, I worked for some other organizations that didn't have those great cultures. And when people say, why do I want to be here? I don't need to be here. Well, if that's your way, if that's how you start your day, that's how you're going to end your day. And that's not just a matter of mindset for the individual. That's the mindset of people throughout the organization. And that permeates everything. It permeates the way procedures are put in place. It permeates the way the business is run. It permeates how buildings are maintained. It permeates everything. They haven't given people a reason to show, whether it's for 10 minutes or a full day. Even if it's for the 3 days that are required, if they still are complaining that why do I need to be here, then they haven't given a reason for being there.
Yeah, let's not, dance around the white elephant. The elephant in the room is what is work today. And for people to believe, we have a wonderful policy. It's called Be in the Office Monday through Friday. And for us, it's the right solution because we're an engagement practice of architecture and design. And the more you can collaborate and engage with one another, you're going to find the benefits of that. I can understand certain businesses that are very computer-based and heads-down focus-based that can work at home. We still give the ability to people to have a schedule that allows you, if something's going on, you have to be home or you have a doctor's appointment, we're going to organize that. This great thing about inter-office messaging and how we can communicate with one another at such expediency to know where each other are at, that's a wonderful tool. But equally, having the respect that we talked about, trust and respect that people aren't going to take and abuse what's been given to them, then that is what you're building trust and faith with. If the answer is no, that's the old school, and that's the business career I had, where it was always, this is the rules, play by them or get the hell out, right? And I think that you have to take a different approach to recognizing that recruitment and retention aspect of building your brand with great people isn't something that happens overnight. And to constantly peel that back and start over again, that doesn't benefit the growth of the company. Equally to this commute aspect of coming in with positive energy, if you don't fulfill that positive energy and that enthusiasm about what you do, you're constantly passing your negativity on to people almost purposely. Like, feel my pain, won't you? And I don't think that that's fair.
One of the things work has changed is, you talked about this, Al, a little bit ago, is the I versus we, or me versus we, right? Are there other spaces, or how do you solve for that, right? Because I think we have had a mindset change that the community is looking for a lot more collaboration. Everyone, when they go to work, wants to be with others, but there still is the I have to get something done, and I need to be behind my computer and have this focus time. Are you creating spaces for just those two elements, or are there other things that you're looking for amongst that?
Well, I think workplace environment has to have multi-optionality to it. So you can come down at your individual desk, which has done what? It's allowed us. Do you remember the days when you said your desk would be 6 foot by 6 foot and everybody would have a nervous breakdown? Today it could be 3 foot by 4 foot.
Yeah.
It could be a touchdown zone that you're working at. Laptops have definitely revolutionized that idea. But more importantly, I think your day is more fulfilled if you have different modes of operation, different modes of work that you can engage in during that 8 to 10 hour day. So some might be all about team and you're conferencing and meeting, but conference rooms don't have to be the foundation of that. They can be open office environments that you do in a way. But you always have the issue of, if somebody's trying to be focused on what they're doing and you're next to them with a large group in place and you're making, your noise level is elevated, you're going to have a struggle with the success of the people around you. So then they would have to pick up and go somewhere else. So the idea is creating great planning. Design solutions are, without question, all about great planning. And the planning aspect of a job has to be where you're giving those people those different modes of work during the course of their business day. Again, I go back to that great sentence. A, your day is accelerated. Those 8 hours go by very quickly. But B, which can be good or can be bad depending on your workload. But B, it's just giving you the ability to engage with multiple people during the course of your day. So we all know that spirit of 25 to 35-year-old work individual is really where a lot of the foundation of all industry is at, all businesses. The elder statesmen and ladies have the ability to mentor, and that should be their job. But then the young youth is where money is made and business is most successful. And they're looking for those different modes because they now have gone through a pandemic where they've worked from their bedroom, from their kitchen table, from different arrangements, and they're able to nimble to pick up and go work somewhere during the course of the day. We need to recognize that and give that opportunity to place today. So what are you seeing? It's nothing rocket science. 300,000 square foot tenants are now 200,000 square foot tenants. 200,000 square foot tenants are now 120. 120 is now 80. You're picking up and you're giving different modes of work, and you're even giving people the ability to say, if you're going to need to be head down focused and do this and it's individualized work, you can be at home and do that. You're also finding that at-home idea has changed quite a bit too, especially like during summers when kids are off school and everything is going on. That changes the course of your ability to be successful. So again, you have to always look for options that are going to promote success. And those options come from giving you different styles and being able to, during your workday, leave what you're doing and go do something different, still successful for your project, for your team, for your company, gives you that little versatility that actually gives you a breath of fresh air. And I think that that's what we're going to see more and more and more and more of. I have the great fortune of working with some of those talented landscape architects in the entire industry. And I can remember 20 years ago when we made the notion of, maybe we need some exterior space, some rooftop decks, and some ability to get outside during the day. And the four eyes that would look at you like, you've got to be kidding me. How could that even be possible? How are I going to manage my people? Everybody's going to want to go outside. You can think of anything and put it on the negative list. And what we have found is it just promotes one more of those ideas where you can change the course of your day. You can incorporate that into cultural sessions and meetings. When Jerry and I, with our landscape team at LJC, created an exterior plazas for different jobs, those are the most successful spaces in their entire environment. And they're all loaded with audiovisual and equipment that make it successful. So you can have all your meetings out there. Who would not want to, on a day like the day that we have today, be outside for a 4, 6, 8 person. It doesn't work for 30, 40 people as well. But when you can create more of that intimate environment and create that collaboration and do it outside, that's the end of the world right there.
You talked about the statesmen. It's the ability to be able to mentor and be able to communicate, right? If you don't have that ability, then why would a younger person want to come into the office? If they're not getting guidance, if they're not getting growth, you can go through all the tactical components of your job, but if you're not seeing growth, if you're not seeing development, if you're not seeing opportunities or someone who is saying, here, let me help you with that, then you do move, right? Your talent does go someplace else because there is nothing that's going to hold you. I don't care how many table tennis plays you have or how many bowling alleys you have. If you are not taking the time to develop the people, then they do move on. And it's the obligation of senior people. I'm going to say senior people, not just senior management, to take the time to develop people. We were fortunate at the same company that we were able to actually bring people who had disabilities into our organization, which actually even created another level of trust and connection. There were people who really connected with those individuals on a different level than they did with their coworkers because of who they were, how they interacted, the enjoyment they brought to the table, because it was just a different level of energy.
It's all about respect.
Respect, mentorship, trust.
They all fold into the same topic. The more you respect others, the more you're going to want to work with others to see their career growth. I'm at a point in my career where my most fulfilling aspect every day of the week is by sharing ideas and then bouncing ideas with people to see how to best move things in the best direction. That's incredible.
Do you feel that that earning the commute is maybe about making sure mentorship's there for the 25 to 35s, but also earning the commute for the senior level people that need to bring that mentorship in, right? Because it's so easy and it's so nice when they're right in the same room and you can bop your head into their office and go, hey, I have this problem, help, right? And you get a solution real quick in a matter of seconds or a direction to go versus scheduling the meeting from home, getting someone on a call, right? So is it the mentors we have to get in the office more, or is it the next generation, or is it a collaboration of everyone?
And I think the mentor people, as Al said, you get energy from them. You get enjoyment. I too have doing mentoring. Part of my consulting business is doing training. I love when people are successful. That drives me, and that brings me into the office to help people succeed.
Yeah, without question. I think the number one point there about age delineation, mentorship comes from all ages. It's not just the senior statesmen and women. It's about people that are intuitively connected to what they're doing and care about people and want to do the right thing at all stages of their day. Bob Clark has created a number of quotes within our organization, Enterprise Down, that are beyond these walls is the greatest one, because it's really not just what you're doing here, but what's outside of your So it's not an ancillary solution. And then the other one is always do the right thing. That's my favorite in the firm, because if you're always looking towards the success of others and how that best folds, you're going to find success of what you're doing with your teammates. And that's how you're going to get the greatest level of respect from them. It's not about the old days where you walked around the firm and you were afraid of the boss, and the boss was the one that made your day successful or not by just looking at you, right? I think a lot of it today is about, what can I learn from you? The generation to now of, again, my favorite 25 to 35 bracket is, how can I learn from you and the group that's going to make my life successful, or I'm out of here, because that's what I'm at. We were grateful to have a job, take a paycheck home Friday, and really, really be engaged in that process. And that was our success. We were maybe very singular, but we weren't really given an option to look outside of that. Today, generation now, people that are making business happen, want something within that 2, 3, 4 year period of growth and potential, and where they can go next and next and next and next, because they all want the corner office. Everybody coming to work every day. And that's interesting. I think we can learn a real lot from this idea of what the legal industry is doing. So legal is very, very based on hierarchy. How many years of work you have, what school you went to, how many degrees you were able to facilitate, all of that good stuff. But if you really think about it, what it boils down to is precedence is earned and respect is earned. And the more that you have been successful, the more people want to grab you and learn a lot from you, because they know they'll learn more from you and that team in a 2-3 year window of time than they will just working for the company. And I think we have allowed that to happen, and we do an excellent job of making sure our teams move from team to team and restructure themselves. Some of our competitors keep a team together, and they think that that's the best for collaboration. I think that there's truth to that, but I think there's an added layer that the more you work with more people, the more different thought processes you see and you get involved in. It gives you a chance to think differently. And I think that's the success. And I think that's what Gen Now is looking for, is how can I learn the most in a shorter period of time so I can advance my career, not just have a job. They'll leave. They'll go for jobs at less salary if they're going to learn more. And that's, again, all different than what we grew up under. So I think management on the style that my generation grew up under, I think it was a lot easier. You just manage by fear and intimidation. And this is your job, do it or not, or we'll find somebody else. And I think that that's a much different venue today for people of, I've got an idea, what do you think? And some of the best and brightest ideas come from people with 1 and 2 years of experience, not 40 years of experience.
Yeah. They have fresh ideas, new ideas.
Sure.
Sometimes.
Or it's an idea that's been done before, but now they got a different twist.
Yeah.
Now there's something that you hadn't thought of, or maybe it's something that was maybe not right before, but now it's right. Now it's the right time to do it.
Never give less credit to anybody you're working with or for. You learn a lot from your clients too.
Absolutely.
That's, I think, one of the biggest mistakes the design profession make is it being all about the design solution. Engaging with the client, seeing how their business works, what it is that makes their business successful, will permeate and carry into the way you run your work and how you can build a successful practice. You're getting a free education without even knowing it.
Let's talk a little bit about the customer, right?
Yeah.
In the city of Chicago, we have a very competitive environment. We have one of the biggest architecture design communities out there. There's been a little bit of a changeover on value, right? What is value to a company? What is value to the culture?
Sure.
And is it low budget always wins, right? Low price point is out there, or are you still seeing some of these entities that are looking for that to bring their culture, to bring their brand, and maybe budget has to be a consideration, but it's not the only thing driving us forward any longer.
If we start from an analysis of how our business works, when we respond to a request for proposal in an interview process, there's always a fee attached to that analysis for a client to consultancy. And without doubt, the vast majority of clients in corporate America start with fee. They'll take your proposal and race to the compensation section right away and try to find out where those numbers are lying firm to firm to firm to firm. If you're fortunate enough, they'll do a comparison on what is the gain and the benefit that I'm going to get from firm to firm, and who really has the best delineation of experience. I believe that it used to be that it was phrased as it was the United States versus Europe. I think all of the world is risk adverse. They want to know that there's a tried and tested solution to what they're embarking in, because if you're working with somebody like when I was working and work with Jerry, his job is on the line too if it doesn't go well. And we recognize that in how we service. But the other aspect is I'm going to learn from him by what his boss is saying to him, to her, on how we come together and get a solution for what's best for the job. Mm-hmm. I talked briefly about that before, but the more that you put learning every day from the people you're working with first, that's your team, that's your consultants, and that's your client, that's going to be better for the job. We suffer from a client or a third-party project management division giving an order, if you will. Mm. This is what you have to do. And I think you have to be in a position to understand that and possibly challenge that at times for the betterment of the job. Because just going one way only and having a dictatorship isn't going to be the best solution for a client. And that goes into then teaching the youth today. It's very refreshing when I work with the youngest members on my teams. They're the ones that say, we're not doing that. Why would we do that? Where we used to leave the meeting going, God, that's a bad idea, but we're going to do it anyway. I think that's really changed, and that's made it really refreshing to bounce that kind of FU right in the meeting and make it happen. I really, really employ everybody to continue on that business operation because it betters everything you're doing. It really does. You learn about that person, too, an awful lot when you're working in that kind of environment, right? It's kind of like the couple that fought and then made up. They're stronger. Absolutely. I think it's the same story here.
As a client for 20 years, you're right. You start out with the number. I mean, that's where you start. And it's not. I didn't start there because I was looking for the lowest price. I was looking to see if there was anomalies. I was looking to see if someone if three companies came in right here and there was one out here and one out here, I had to ask the question, why, right? And why are this person out here and why is this person out here? So, I might say, okay, well, is it my communication skills? Was the RFP not written correctly? Do they just not want the business, right? Are they too big for us and they don't want, that's why they're up here? Or there's one out here, are they grasping for straws? Is there a reason why they're so low? They really should be up here anyways because they have the talent to be here. If you take just the numbers, they don't tell the whole story. You got to look at the numbers as a starting point and so ask the question, why? And then you take the rest of the proposal and start to look at it to say, okay, I understand what they're doing because this person is now 20% below because they just didn't get it from an RFP standpoint. Now, the 3 out of 5 got it. The fourth one kind of got it. Then it's not a communication issue. It's they didn't understand, right? So now at least you're asking the question why, and you might be asking it more than once to see why there's a difference. Because if it was just numbers, I'd take the person who was down here, and if they didn't get the RFP, they're surely not going to get the project correct, right? So you got to ask if you're as a client for 20 years, you got to start with the numbers, just to start to say, did I do it right? And if not, then sometimes I've had to go back and say, listen, I'm starting over again because something went wrong. I'm not communicating correctly. I didn't ask the questions correctly. You guys didn't see the same thing that everybody else is seeing. Let's start over again. This is the new RFP. Everyone gets a clean slate. So, but not everyone does that. Sometimes it's the culture. You got to grab this person. And when you grab this person, you live with that mistake for the rest of the time that parties are part of the organization.
Yeah, interesting, right? If there's a third-party project management team or a construction team or a client writing a request for proposal for consultancy, It's usually a couple pages long only. It gives high level of when they want to stop and start. Maybe sometimes there's even an assumed budget that's delineated in there, but there's vaguity, no question about it. And a project that's a 2, 3, 4 year window is going to have a lot of nuances that aren't captured at all in that initial request. So you have to understand that. You can take an approach of, so many things are missing from this request for proposal. I'm not going to ask a lot of questions about it in the question and answer time. I'm just going to submit a low fee and qualify that I'm not doing any of this other stuff. And our practice comes from a belief that that's not really being an advocate for a client and doing the right thing. And doing the right thing is ask the questions, have the most education you can, and submit a proposal. What's fascinating to me is if you think about it, principal level, junior level, and intern level. Our industry pays across the board the same from firm to firm to firm with a 85% accuracy. There's always going to be some people that are different on that scale. But how can one firm expect so much money, and how can one firm expect so little money to facilitate full service for that client? That's the question a client has to ask. What am I missing? What are they missing? And I don't know if that's always done. A lot of firms race to the bottom. They just want to find the lowest fee, and that's who they're going to hire. I understand that, right? We do that when we go out and buy clothes or buy a car or buy whatever we're doing. We're always looking for our value too. But that has to really go through its due diligence period to understand accuracies of proposals people get. We've been on situations where we've lost a job and had the good fortune to do a debrief. And we debrief and ask the entity on the other end, what is it that was assumed here and here and here and here? And they were like, really good questions. And so when we assumed it and qualified it and other firms didn't, was that analysis put forth, or was it just race to the bottom, look at the fee and hire somebody off it?
Sure.
And 95% of the time it's that latter. And that's most unfortunate for the success of a job, because now another practice is going to have to come in and say, well, we didn't assume any of this, this, and this, and we're going to need to be compensated for it. You know, we always have this great adage in architecture, you sell design, solutions, and ideology, but you really sell time, because we're in a time card business. And so on Friday, your teammates fill out a time card, and that gets billed to the job. And you have to be able to have captured fee to support those billings. And if you don't, you're in some serious trouble. And now it's really hard to go back to a client and say, here's what you wrote in your RFP, but this is really inaccurate. And we're going to need a little more compensation for that. That's where relationships start to go a little sideways. I think it's best to be able to be in a position to have open, honest conversation with your client the whole time. From the minute you shake hands and you're in the room, if you're just waiting and it's just architecture.com, where you're facilitating emails and sending things through, I think you're missing a lot of the fact of successful work.
And the person down here is going to be up at this level by the time you're finished.
Oh, absolutely.
At the very.
If you've gone with them, no matter what it is in life, whether this industry or outside of it, you inevitably get your moment and you get your burn, and you're like, maybe that the lowest price, the really outlier, is not always the best, right? And it typically only takes once. If you had to part wisdom upon someone trying to present a proposal to you, either way, what would you say is some way that they could stand out? Assuming that I'm delivering you a document, it's got a price at the bottom, you've level set the price points. Is it a conversation? Is it during the interview? Is it inside of their proposal? Is there a way to stand out for the end user and for a wonderful design firm like you guys have?
For me, it was thinking, it's what else can you do for me? And I don't mean, I know what you're saying on paper,
Yeah.
but let me give you one more idea, or let me tell you about a service else we can do, right? We can.
So then step out of the box.
Let's step out of the box.
Okay.
And I know this is going to be something that's going to be done over the next year, but over the next 5 years, we can help you do this, this, and this.
Sure.
And it will save you money over the next 5 years. That kind of feedback will win that business.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not just reading the RFP. It's of course it's doing, like, responding appropriately to the RFP. It's not ignoring what I asked, because if you ignore what I ask, it doesn't make a difference what you say. But what I ask, and then you tell me a little more about other things you can do for me, that helps.
Yeah, I think you can. I think it's fair if you're responding to always be in a position to make offerings that might be outside of what it is delineated in the RFP that better service that client. Because clients they have their job and they have to function on success every minute of what they're doing. So if you're in a position to guide and say, hey, wait a minute, time out. This is a 7, 10, 12-year project that you're going to be involved in on campus development or whatever it is. These are things that are going to better suit you down the road. How can we help talk to you about how those are going to benefit? Because it shouldn't be a great race where you're passing the baton to the next service in your firm. It's that you're integrating that whole team. So you heard me say earlier, integrated by design. When we start a job, we bring all of our people that have different hats in the organization to the room. And we'll talk about landscape and planning and engineering and architecture and interiors all collectively so that we can really develop the best project. That's going to be the long-term thinking of the project, not just the immediate need. And more often than not, an RFP is an immediate need. You know, there's great examples of Johnson Controls who did a reception area in Wisconsin, and the selected firm did 6 buildings afterwards, right? So if you're thinking about helping that client and helping gauge their success and the company's success, you're really a provocative consultant at that point as opposed to just somebody trying to put out a fire.
Yeah, holistic versus transactional, right?
So the challenge goes back to you, which you didn't anticipate.
Oh, no.
You have seating, you have workplace environment,
Yeah.
you have conference room environments. What separates one company from another company? And when a bid comes in, what do clients typically do? They look at the bottom line. Talk about quality, talk about the durability of a product, talk about the aesthetics of the product. Not everybody's aesthetics are equal. Not everybody's product is manufactured with the same aspects of quality. How is it that you delineate that aspect for a client? Because we're engaged in that all the time. We write requests for proposals to the furniture industry and interiors, and you should see the variables in the bids. And now you have to, what they call level set all of that bid environment. How's one chair 700 and another chair 1,800? Yeah. You lost the job right there by that $1,000 differential because you're going to multiply that by 100 chairs and you're already the higher bidder. So how do you equal it? How do you make sure you're asking the right questions? How does your RFP give everybody a real fair, equal opportunity to swing at the plate as hard as they can? That's a challenge.
It is.
Because not everybody is equal. I said earlier, design practices are very similar in the sense that they have modules of 3 to 5, 5 to 7, 7 to 9, 10-year experience, and salaries that are pretty commensurate to those levels of experience. But how can you delineate if you're going to have, here's a great analysis that we did with a client years ago. 2 firms came down, fortunately LJC and another, but the other's team was all based on very youthful teammates. And that's how you're going to make your money because their hourly rates are lower. So if an effort has to happen, is that effort really happening in those 40 hours or 80 hours or 300 hours that you forecast with somebody at a very junior level versus somebody at a very senior level? And how does that delineate itself? So I had the great ability to work with one client where they literally looked at the hours. And they said, well, for this phase of the job, your team is spending 1,500 hours, but your competitor is spending 400 hours. And you can't go, but well, if you take your car in, they're not going to fix your car in 1 hour, are they? How do they do that? And you have to not just say, well, that just can't be done, and that's complete bullshit. You have to have the ability to look at it and say, where are they doing it differently than we're doing it? And how can we equal that playing field? Because unfortunately, our business is extraordinarily competitive, as is both of yours. And numbers are the biggest challenge right out of the blocks. You asked the question earlier. I didn't answer it proficiently. It's based on fee, on an analysis from a client. It's based on parallel experience because, again, we're risk-averse people. We want to know you've done this before. You want to challenge people too. Some of the greatest architectural assignments in the world have been built by firms that have never, or designed by firms that have never done that before. And they've come in and designed it, and it's breathtaking, right? And it works, and it evokes emotion, and does all the things architecture is supposed to do. But when you go backwards, if it's not about how you're disseminating who's on it, what level of experience they have, their years of experience in the business as well, that's all has to factor into fee and analysis. If I loaded professionally a whole job with people right out of school, would you hire them versus having a seasoned veteran like Jerry running your job? It's something you have to think about a little bit as opposed to just racing to the bottom.
So we talked a little bit about the industry, and some recent news just came out about H&I Brands buying Steelcase. And a couple years back, there was the Miller-Knoll merger. Big industry changing in my industry. What does that look like for both the end user and from an A&D firm? What do you kind of forecast the future to be?
Jerry, would you take it first?
So from our standpoint, if we're committed to a particular line, it does start to raise questions as to how are we going to continue to be serviced, right? Did we make a right decision in the beginning? Are we going to be able to continue to use the lines we have? Are the people, the relationships we have, are they gone? So again, respect, relationships all come into play more than just the furniture, because that's a part of it, but the relationship and the individuals we work with to get to that point are part of a bigger picture for us than
Trust.
Than just the. And chances are, if we're talking about two different large players, we probably selected one over the other at some point, anyways. So now I'm thinking, well, now I'm not confident in my may not be confident in my decision because they just bought so and so, or vice versa.
We're advocates at LJC of when you're entering into a furniture deal from client to provider, you need to interview that division of work too. And that could be a 20,000 square foot job or a 5 million square foot job, because it's the people that are going to take the level of experience to the next level. And that is how they service, how they warranty, and how they take care of the product that's in your workplace. It's an enormous investment. People fail to realize that in main instances, large workplace can be 38 to 40% of your investment, not just your construction. And so the success of it is one, the maintenance and warranty of it are two. The people are what make that work. You could call Jerry and he'll service you right away. You could call me and I'll service you in 3 weeks. That's a big difference. And you need to be able to have that ability to know that I have that trust and respect. The merger is not startling. At first it is, because I'm looking at one company buying what was, when I started in this industry, the behemoth of furniture and the number one rated company. Well, when you look at it from a different perspective of how can I gain more market share, that's how you do it. And that's exactly why Miller-Knoll merged and why H&I and Hayworth merged. It's going to Steelcase, excuse me. It's going to create a much bigger ability for them to sell to a larger whole. What's not being looked at right now is where we started this conversation, and that's about respect and service. Because a lot of the people that were who you took years to develop that friendship with and respect may no longer be part of the equation. And if that's the case, where do you go from there?
Yeah. You want to have trust in the people, not only for that moment, but 5 years down the line. A lot of these companies are investing for 10 years in a lease.
Right.
And they want to know that that person's going to be there in 10 years from now, even if the product has to adapt or shift. I think we all know the product is a commodity a bit, and it does have some changes, and colors will change and things will change over time. But as long as you trust the person to get you the right.
Maybe my Freudian slip was that they next buy Hayworth as well.
No, Hayworth is so far, I think, is going to stay right where it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But the
which
warranty,
we're thankful for, of
right,
course.
the warranty is the warranty. It's in place,
Yes.
regardless of who has it.
Yeah.
It's just a matter, like you said, whether I can get someone out in an hour or whether that CEO is going to wait 3 to 4 weeks for that chair to be repaired.
Well, they're going to all go through no different than Miller-Knoll has. It's an incredible learning curve of melding these two iconic companies together. And how do you make that all work? It's not without mess.
Of course.
And so they'll have to navigate that quickly because market share is market share. And while they're doing this, they have to still still continue to successfully sell product. So that's going to be a challenge for everybody. I believe you had one more question.
I do, yes. So you have a big development coming up here in Chicagoland, and the Quantum Campus is this new, really cool, fun space, and you guys are tied to that. Can you share a little bit about what's been going on there?
Yeah, most certainly. It's an amazing opportunity for not only LJC, which this conversation stemmed around, it's our enterprise. So the enterprise on the land, some of the land development and the potential build for our parent Clayco gives us the ability to really synthesize what we talk about on that integrated by design. So our meetings are not just with like-minded architects and designers and engineering consultants. It's with the construction arm as well at every meeting. So they're developing a multi-phased product. As you can imagine, it starts off really, really big on paper. And then when the numbers have to pencil out to make the capital investment work, it's moving a little slower than people would have probably wanted and liked. That only makes sense because people are going to gauge success daily and weekly on how a product that large gets built. And so it's multi-phase, multi-buildings. It is what I call the end of the world because it's all going to be all web-based and how you can basically take all of technology and put it in buildings and run it. And so quantum computing will give you results and answers in minutes versus weeks, days, and hours. So how do you do that? How are you successful with it? It involves a lot of great brain trust. It involves the largest companies like Microsoft and Google, and everybody are engaged in it. So how do you get there? And we've been blessed to be part of this assignment. And every day, every minute, there's a lot of different ideas that are continually being put on the table because, again, everybody's going to base it on pro forma. It's a large capital investment. And when you get bigger and bigger and bigger on the economics, there's a lot more synthesis of smarts that has to go into that before you just say, let's build. We're also at an economy right now on interest rates and prime and how things are going that aren't necessarily greatest and aren't necessarily advocating for this size of a job at this given 2025 juncture. But we have confidence, and I personally have confidence that jobs of that magnitude are going to be what you're seeing a lot more of, not just here in Chicago, but it's going to find its way through all the world. And as you know, most of the pharma companies that are also related to most of the high quantum type computing, because they have medicines they have to get out to market faster. Everybody, it's about speed. I really applaud Ken Griffin for what he did at Citadel on how he developed technology to be his greatest asset. So they built mainframe computing and mainframe web-based technology in buildings before anybody else did. So everybody thought it was all happening at 131 Dearborn, and it was really happening on the East Coast. And so speed of information and knowledge and how you can navigate that knowledge, that's the success of big business along that prime, if you will. And that's what you're going to see happening when you're talking about this quantum campus. So Chicago's the lead. All eyes are on it, and it's going to be fascinating to watch over the next couple of years.
Oh, I think it's going to be great for the city. I'm so excited that Chicago's a new hub of quantum, right?
Well, if you have the ability to or have the time to look a little bit more into it, you're going to see that there's a whole community that's also sharing in the massing of that project. So new housing, new houses, new schools, everything will be built in its adjacency. So you're building kind of like this utopia all around how this is successful.
Yeah. Well, you're going to have the infrastructure definitely to get into there.
Monster opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Jerry, did you have any thoughts about the quantum campus?
It's going to be amazing. It's going to be an absolutely amazing project, and hats off to everyone who's involved in that.
Yeah, it's amazing for the city of Chicago, for sure.
Can't wait to see 5 years down the line, we'll have to have another one of these, and we can all sit around and talk about what was done through that.
Cool. Let's do that.
We'll be able to do this podcast in 3.5 seconds.
Fair, okay. And I'll probably be AI automated, but that's okay. It'll make me look a little younger and a little more articulate. That's fine with me.
Sounds perfect.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, our pleasure.
And we really appreciate it. And I can't wait, like I said, for 5 years for this conversation to start all over again about what we've done.
Thanks again, Kim.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this conversation, please take a moment to rate our show. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the Work Inspired podcast so that you don't miss any of the incredible guests we have planned for upcoming episodes. We'll continue to find the best and brightest minds in business so that you can learn, grow, and succeed. and so that we can all work inspired. Work Inspired is brought to you by BOS, a leader in commercial working environments and a Hayworth best-in-class dealership. Experience our 360 approach and discover the team, tools, and techniques required to navigate the complexity of your next workspace at BOS.com. If you have ideas, feedback, or would like to be featured on our show, please email podcast@BOS.com. Thank you for listening. This has been a Workspace digital production. If you're interested in launching a podcast at your organization, please email info@workspace.digital for a free consultation.